Hi, I have been deluded into thinking I can make food videos on YouTube, and today I'm going to show you guys how to make what I'm calling chili oil chicken, or kosui. This is a classic Chinese dish from the Sichuan province that's usually served cold as an appetizer. Let's get started with the chili oil first. We're going to need a bunch of spices here. We're going to start with about 2 tablespoons of chili powder, a tablespoon of sesame seeds, a teaspoon of ground cumin, 1.5 teaspoons of Chinese life-size powder, and 1.5 teaspoons of Sichuan peppercorn powder. We're also going to need 3 to 4 slices of ginger, 2 cloves of garlic crushed, 2 green onions that I've cut in half here, 2 star anise, and 2 bay leaves. Get yourself a bowl that won't melt if you put hot oil into it, and throw in your spice powders and the sesame seeds. Just give things a mix, and once things are thoroughly mixed, just set it aside. You're going to get a pot and then put it on your burner, and you're going to want to set your burner to a low to medium-low heat, but this is going to depend a bit on your stovetop, so adjust as you see fit. Throw in the spices and the vegetation into your pot, and then pour in a cup of any neutral flavored oil. I'm using vegetable oil, but you can just use whatever you can get your hands on. We are looking to make a flavored oil to use in the chili oil, and of course this process will impart flavor into the oil. But you can't push this process as you could burn the spices and things will get bitter. Wait until the stuff in the pan starts to look brown and the vegetation starts to look a little bit wrinkly. When things get to this point, grab your bowl of powders and pour in the oil while straining out the spices and the aromatics. You want to throw those away. Depending on how hot your oil is though, things could sizzle and bubble, so be careful not to burn yourself. Once you pour in your oil, give things a stir, and we're basically done with the chili oil. Now, the ingredient amounts here are too much for this dish, but you can save the oil for another day. Set things aside, and let's get to the chicken. For chicken thighs specifically in this case, it may be 3 to 4 more slices of ginger and 2 more stalks of green onion. Now, traditionally, you'd probably start with a whole chicken and cut it up, but that's a whole lot of effort, and thighs are just easier to deal with. Now you're actually watching me cut out the thigh bone by just running the knife along the sides of the bone and just eventually working it out. You can skip this step if you want to. It doesn't matter, it doesn't actually affect the dish, but I like pulling out the bone to make things easier to slice later on. I'm actually going to leave the bone in some of the thighs so you can see what I mean later on about the slicing, but you can totally skip this step if you really want to. It doesn't matter. After you're done cutting out the chicken bones to the chicken, if you chose to do so, just take the chicken and put it inside of your pot. And then scatter your ginger and green onions about. And once you've done that, just pour enough water over the contents of the pot to cover things up with water. Cap on the lid, and turn your burner to a high heat to bring things to a boil. Once things have gotten to a boil, back the heat down to about medium, and let it sit for about 10 more minutes at that heat, and then after your 10 minutes, just take the chicken off the heat and let it sit for about 10 to 15 minutes more. You're looking to gently poach the chicken to doneness, you're not looking to actually boil it all the way to doneness. While we wait, we're going to work on the sauce that goes on the chicken, which is also pretty simple. Get another bowl and drop in a tablespoon of Chinese black vinegar, 2 teaspoons of soy sauce, and that's just plain old regular soy sauce, half a teaspoon of sugar, and a teaspoon and a half of Chinese sesame paste. If you can't get your hands on this stuff, you can replace it with tahini. You can try adding in some ground toasted sesame seeds, or just skip it entirely. It's not a required ingredient, and if you can't find Chinese black vinegar, you can substitute balsamic vinegar. It's not really the same, but it'll still taste good. Now I'm going to give the sauce a couple glugs of sesame oil, but just add to taste. You can always add more later. To finish off the sauce, add about 2 to 3 tablespoons of our freshly made chili oil, then give everything a mix. You should give the sauce a taste, and it should be a bit too strong to eat on its own, as it's going to go on some unsalted chicken, but if you feel like it needs anything, just go ahead and adjust. Now that we're done with the sauce, we can go back to the chicken. The chicken should be cooked all the way through after the waiting period, but do check to make sure. Once you're sure they are cooked, put them in an ice bath because hot chicken pieces are painful to handle, and the dish is traditionally served cold. Once the chicken is cool, you want to slice into pieces. That first piece of chicken you just saw me fight with had the bone in it still, and classically you would just cut through the bone with a big knife, as you just saw me fail to do. Now this piece I'm cutting right now has the bone removed. See? Much easier. Arrange the chicken on a plate and pour your sauce over it. What I'm showing here is 2 of the 4 pieces of chicken, so I'm only going to pour about half of the sauce over the chicken. I'm also going to add some more of the chili oil, even though we already have it in the sauce. You can do this to taste if you decide to do that. If you feel like adding some garnishes, some thinly sliced green onion would be appropriate. Maybe some toasted sesame seeds or crushed peanuts even, but I'm sticking with the green onion. And here we go, chili oil chicken. Now this dish is very tasty, makes a great appetizer or even a meal with some rice. I hope you guys give it a try, and if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go eat my dinner.